So you think you know the real difference between an Android phone and an iPhone? I'm gonna bet it's not what you think. It isn't the camera, it's not the price. It's a deep, almost philosophical disagreement about how we should work, how we should think, and how we interact with our digital world. Let's really dig into this divide. It all really boils down to this one single question. Should your phone be a tool that helps you do a bunch of things at once, or should it force you to focus on just one? This right here, this is the philosophical battleground where these two tech giants have planted their flags.
So, on one side, you've got Android's whole worldview of creative proliferation. It's a world built on yes and, a place where you can do it all at the same time. But then on the other side, you've got Apple's philosophy of forced simplicity. This is a world that insists you do one single thing at a time and you do it well. Two totally competing visions for that computer in your pocket.
Okay, so first, let's explore the Android philosophy. We're stepping into a world that's built on creative freedom, which, as you're about to see, can sometimes feel a little bit like, well, beautifully organized chaos.
This right here, this is what true multitasking looks like. Just picture this. You're watching a YouTube tutorial on how to knit a tiny hat for your cat. Super important stuff. At the exact same time, a work email pops up and you can reply to it right there, all while a little floating calculator is on screen to help you convert your stitches. Android just says, yeah, no problem. It lets you do all three things at once with split screen and floating windows.
What this does is it basically turns you, the user, into a master of versatility. You're not just using a phone anymore, you're operating a digital command center. You're managing all these different streams of information, and they're all visible and accessible at the exact same time. All right, now let's cross the aisle and step into Apple's world. This is what you'd call the art of the sequential. It's elegant, it's super smooth, but it's also, incredibly restrictive. This is maybe the best way to put it. On an iPhone, multitasking is a lot like talking in turns, like they taught us in kindergarten. One app gets the spotlight while all the others have to wait patiently in the background, just hoping they don't get shut down completely. The entire system is designed so that only one voice is ever heard at a time. Let's look at a super practical example. Say you need to get an address from an email into your Maps app. Well, on an iPhone, this is a whole four-step dance. You gotta open Mail, copy the address, swipe up to see all your other apps, find Maps, open that, and then finally you can paste. Every single step is a separate, focused action. You just can't see both at the same time. Now, what Apple has absolutely perfected is something we could call the illusion of productivity. The animation when you switch apps is so fluid, so fast, that you feel like you're multitasking. But what's really happening? You're just being a very, very efficient single tasker, quickly jumping from one finished thought to the next. It's kind of like a magician's sleight of hand. So how does this whole philosophical divide actually play out in the real world? Let's imagine putting these two types of users side by side with a really common task. Okay, so picture an iPhone user trying to compare prices on two different travel websites. She opens one site, checks a price, swipes over to the other app, checks that price, then swipes back again, and again, and again. Her thumb is just flying with the frenzy of a frantic metronome. And how frantic are we talking? Well, she was switching between those two apps about, get this, 20 times per minute. Just think about that for a second. All of that effort just to compare two numbers that an Android user could just see side by side plain as day. All right, now for some data points. They might be a little satirical, but they are very telling, and they really hammer home this core difference in flexibility. For years, Apple has maintained what people call a walled garden, and this chart, this shows you the result. For a really long time, the default app lock-in rate was nearly 90%. You had to use Safari, you had to use Apple Mail. On Android, fifth. You can change almost anything you want. It's the difference between being handed a preset menu and getting to walk through an open buffet. Okay, here's a fun one. And it's from let's call it a highly unscientific study. What in the world could the number 50,000 represent when we're talking about iPhone users? It is the number of words in a novel you could theoretically write with all the time you spend just switching between apps. But, and here's the real punchline, you can't actually write it on your phone because you can't have your research open on one side of the screen and your document on the other. So you see, this isn't really about which phone is better. It's about which philosophy of work and attention fits you better. This table pretty much sums up the whole trade-off.
Android gives you an amazing amount of freedom and versatility, but that can come at the cost of, well, potential chaos. The iPhone gives you this beautiful simplicity and control, but it comes at the cost of a forced sequential focus. It's a clear choice between versatility and control.
And that brings it all back to you. So, which camp do you fall into? Do you see your phone as a tool for managing tons of different streams of information at once, a versatile command center? Or is it a device for serene, single-minded focus, a minimalist tool for doing one thing perfectly? The answer says a whole lot about not just which phone you prefer, but how you prefer to work.